Hello and welcome to Pub and Fig. In this video I will go over everything you need to know before you watch the Hawkeye series. If you take a look on today's spoiler menu, these will be the only movies that I will reference, so there will be no spoilers from the trailers nor the marketing. And if you take a look on the flip side of today's menu, you will see the spoiler weight and watch value for each of those sources according to our Pub M Fig meter. You can pause the video if you need more time, or you can find a link in the top right corner or in the description below for a more in-depth explanation for how these are measured. Now, without any further ado, let's review. We were first introduced to Hawkeye, aka Clint Barton, all the way back in the first Thor movie. During an operation in New Mexico by the espionage and security agency S.H.I.E.L.D., we see Clint reject rifles for a signature bow and aura farm from overhead, although he remains steady and does not take a shot. In the Avengers, the Norse god Loki uses his new scepter to mind control Clint for most of the runtime before he gets snapped out of it and becomes a founding Avenger. While he may seem like a normal dude, especially in comparison to super soldiers and gods, we get to witness him live up to his Hawkeye name numerous times, nailing practically impossible shots, using the variety of trick arrows at his disposal, pulling a Tom Cruise by performing his own stunts off of tall buildings, and contributing an overlooked bit to the stopping of Loki. The person he is closest to on that team is fellow agent Natasha Romanoff, aka the Black Widow.
Just like Budapest all over again!
You and I remember Budapest very differently.
The reason for their bond is because Clint was actually sent to kill Natasha years ago. She was a part of a specialized Russian espionage program known as the Red Room, which was made up of female assassins dubbed Black Widows. Natasha had defected by the time Clint was on her case, and he decided to give her the opportunity to join S.H.I.E.L.D. instead, which then culminated in a particular mission in Budapest. We learn all this information both in the first Avengers, but also in the Black Widow movie when Natasha recounts her journey to her ex-widow sister, Yelena. Anywho, the Avengers defeat Loki, move into Avengers Tower, and maintain a healthy connection to S.H.I.E.L.D. since they were the ones who assembled the team to begin with. That was until it was discovered that S.H.I.E.L.D. had some problems. In Captain America the Winter Soldier, we learned that the organization was secretly plagued by members of Hydra, an offshoot of the Nazis from World War II. The long story short is that Captain America and Natasha reveal this to the world, flush Hydra out of hiding, and stop them from enacting terror on a mass scale. However, this means that the Avengers are on their own and no longer have S.H.I.E.L.D. to fall back on. But this also means that Clint and Natasha are full-time Avengers now instead of agents first, heroes second. In Avengers Age of Ultron, the Avengers take out the last Hydra base, reclaim Loki's scepter, create an artificial intelligence via the scepter, give it the name Ultron, and it turns out to be evil. The biggest reveal from this film comes when the team needs to lie low and we learn that Clint has a secret family on a ranch somewhere in the contiguous US. They were never in S.H.I.E.L.D.'s files and only a few even knew they existed, which means they were spread from the leaking of the Hydra files. After this moment of relaxation and game planning, the Avengers gain a few new members and fight Ultron and his robot army in a European city named Sokovia. We get two good moments with Clint in particular, the first being when he gives this speech.
We're fighting an army of robots. And I have a bow and arrow. None of this makes sense, but I'm going back out there because it's my job.
Doesn't matter what you did, what you were.
But if you step out that door, you are an Avenger.
And the other is a fake-out death.
You didn't see that coming.
During all of this, Ultron was raising the whole city into the sky so he could meteor it back down. But the Avengers managed to evacuate nearly everyone before destroying the city themselves, so only rubble came crashing down. The film ends on a good note, but all of this comes to bite them in the behind in Captain America's Civil War. The United Nations has had enough of the Avengers acting as free agents without any regulation nor supervision, so they are given the Sokovia Accords as an ultimatum. Either fall under the jurisdiction of the UN or retire. Clint initially chose to retire and stay home with his family, but when Captain America needed some not quite legal help for a friend of his, he drags himself back into the fight. At an airport in Germany, we get Team Iron Man versus Team Cap, the pro and anti-accords respectively, and while Cap gets to continue the mission he sought out on, the rest of his team are captured and taken to a new remote prison called the Raft. Just before the credits roll, we see Cap break his team out of the Raft, but that excludes Hawkeye and Ant-Man. Likely just prior to the prison break, both of them were given the option for house arrest, which allowed them to stay closer to their families for a 2-year window. We initially learned this in Avengers Infinity War as a means to explain away why he wasn't in the movie, but the results of this film still impact him directly. Throughout the picture, the big purple alien named Thanos is on a quest to collect 6 Infinity Stones, and with them he can snap away half of all life across the universe. Spoilers, but he collects them all, carries out his snap, dips out to recover, and we proceed to see half of the population turn to dust. When we catch up to Clint and his family, we see that all of them but himself are a part of that half that disappeared. Going over some of the broad strokes for Avengers Endgame, it has been 5 years since Thanos' snap, and the Avengers finally have a lead to bring everyone back. In that time, however, Clint has taken on the alias known as Ronin and treads a bloody anti-hero route. Natasha brings him back to the team for their golden ticket, and he is the first to volunteer to test their time travel suits. No, I am not counting the Ant-Man trial run, that was not an absolute win. Clint is sent into the past with the suit and gives the rest of the team hope that they can follow through on this plan. Thanos had destroyed the Infinity Stones after he had used them, so the team is going on a time heist to get their own stones but from the past. 4 of the Avengers go back to 2014 for the Power and Soul Stones, and that quad then splits into pairs to further divide and conquer, meaning Clint and Natasha are the 2 to retrieve the Soul Stone.
We're a long way from Budapest.
What they may or may not have been briefed on is that the Soul Stone requires a heavy sacrifice.
A soul for a soul.
When they rationalize what needs to be done, they fight each other over who should make the sacrificial play. Clint wants to make up for his time as Ronin and losing hope, but Natasha fights for him to see his family again. The sparring is fairly matched, but Clint gets outbested by Natasha and she takes the fall, leaving Clint with the Soul Stone and more guilt. With all of the Infinity Stones collected, the Avengers make a snap of their own and successfully bring back everyone who was dusted. From what we learned in Spider-Man Far From Home, which actually takes place most of a year after Avengers Endgame, we learn that this event of people dusting out of existence and reappearing 5 years later became known as the Blip. However, a Thanos from the past wreaks havoc on Avengers Campus and declares war on the whole universe. Hawkeye is the first member to play hot potato with the gauntlet, and the battle ends when Iron Man steals the stones and makes a sacrificial snap to dust Thanos and his whole army. The Avengers have a funeral for Iron Man, and Clint has a brief aside with another Avenger as they mourn those who could not be with them in the end, which for him is Natasha. Now, they did have a brief moment of mourning for her just after acquiring the stones, but they do not seem to know or have contact with Natasha's found family. Sometime after Endgame, though, we see Natasha's sister Yelena go to her tombstone in Ohio and pay yet another homage. However, she is greeted by Contessa Valentina de Fontaine seemingly for some mercenary mission.
Maybe you'd like a shot at the man responsible for your sister's death.
Other than this, which is from the post-credit scene of the Black Widow movie, the last we see of Clint is settling down with his family yet again, and we pick up from there for this series. Now, the only other thing I will say is this will be a Christmas-themed season, which will be Marvel's second go-around since Iron Man 3 already beat it to the punch. This is why I put the Christmas edition of the logo at the beginning of the video to ease you into that holiday mood. With that said, let me know in the comment section what struck out to you about this video, and if you enjoyed this recap, please give it a like. Both of these things will help others find this video in the algorithm, even though I am very, very late. And if you want to stay in the loop for similar videos and deep dives, then please consider subscribing to the channel or joining the Pub and Fix Discord server. Anyway, that is all. Sayonara.